Chirohustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. Before we dive into this powerful episode, please remember to subscribe to our channels and to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes to continue hustling. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West, TrackStat, and EMSCULPT. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 456 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your producer, Luke Millette, and here's your host, James Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Ted Davis. If you want to hear the story of how to use technology to grow your practice, stay tuned. Welcome back. This is a very amazing show that I think we're about to have. It's a very sequential number. It's 456. I made reckoning of that before we got onto the show today, but I have Ted Davis with me today. I had a chance to meet this chiropractor who knows a couple of my friends, and I was like, hey man, why don't we just do a show? And he agreed. So I met him in earlier a couple months ago at the Colorado Chiropractic Association, and what a great event, good leadership, and love this great state of Colorado that we both live in. So before I get into the question and answer set with Ted today, I'm just going to let you guys know the big why. I think that's really fundamental of our show. And if you don't listen to anything else after this part, I hope that you always listen to the first 2 minutes so you understand a little bit more about chiropractic through my lens. And our show does protect freedom of speech, family freedom, medical freedom. I think those are things that we really have to stand true to, and we have to hold our line. We also support and protect BJ Palmer's last words. He was the developer of chiropractic, and he said, "There is a sacred trust, guard it well." And please go to your favorite search engine and look for BJ Palmer's Sacred Trust. You'll learn so much more about chiropractic than you ever could imagine. And then the next thing is we do support subluxation-based chiropractic. I know that that's a big word too. If you're not a chiropractor and you're just listening to this as a chiropractic patient or advocate, subluxation is very important to the future, and keep that alive and well in the lexicon of vernacular of this profession of chiropractic. And then lastly, we believe that when someone gets adjusted, man or woman, it connects them, the physical to the spiritual. And with that being said, Dr. Ted Davis, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I love the pre-show almost as much as I love the actual interview process, because we get a chance to really connect. And I felt like when we were sitting in the green room, I call it, we had a chance to really share some depth of your journey of how you got to where you are. And I had a chance to share my journey of how I get to have become where I am today. And it's really cool because you also mentioned to me that you've actually listened to, a handful of our shows, or maybe more, but that's really, I'm thankful for that, because we produce this for the chiropractic profession.
Yeah. I think you do a lot more for the chiropractic profession than you may realize.
Well, it's an honor to be able to hold this position and to be somebody that, when I think I was talking to you, I was like, you know who Joe Rogan is? Maybe it wasn't you, but I was like, that's me for this profession.
I think that might've been me. Yeah. No, but as a chiropractor, it's so easy to feel like you're on an island at times. You can live in your own business, just doing your own thing and not looking across and connecting with other chiropractors. At least that's what I do. I'm just naturally an introvert. That's not what you do. You connect with every chiropractor on planet Earth. And I think that's so important, especially for someone like me, because then I get to hear all these other chiropractors speaking about their personal experiences, and I can relate to them. I could say, oh my gosh, I've experienced that. I thought I was crazy, but wow, I'm not.
So, we were talking off camera, and you said you're pre-med, and you went to University of Oregon for track and field, which I think is absolutely fascinating. And then you matriculated over to Logan in St. Louis and became a chiropractor. So let's tell the story from your perspective.
Okay. Well, the really simple story, if I was going to be perfectly honest, is I believe that I was always supposed to be a chiropractor. I didn't even know what a chiropractor was when I was growing up. So I feel like I was totally led Holy Spirit wise to become a chiropractor, which is absolutely crazy because when I first became a chiropractor, I was an atheist. And then through the years of just having my eyes opened up to the power of putting your hands on someone, I realized that I wasn't really an atheist, that I believed in something far beyond just what can be objectively measured. So that being said, my foot into the chiropractic world was really just sports. I was always an athlete. I was a college athlete. I ran track. Well, I jumped track for the Oregon Ducks. And then eventually I decided that wasn't cutting the cheese. I wanted to get serious about college. So I transferred to University of Washington in Seattle. And I crammed a 4-year pre-medical degree into 2 years. That was insane. Yeah, when I showed up to Seattle, the counselor was telling me, you can't do this. It's a 4-year program. You have to start from day one when you start as a freshman. And I was like, no, you're going to sign me up, buddy. So I did full-time track and field and a pre-med. So I was doing like 22 credits every term. And I was, working retail at the same time. It was just brutal. And then I didn't even know what chiropractic was really. I was just happened to be dating a girl who wanted to be a chiropractor. So I went and checked out Logan College of Chiropractic. They had a concomitant master's degree in sports science and rehabilitation that you could do the same time you're getting your doctorate. So I was like, this is what I'm doing. This is amazing. I get to work hands-on with athletes. I don't have to bang my head into a brick wall trying to balance someone's blood sugar. No offense to the people that like to balance people's blood sugar, just not for me. I'm like a sports medicine, very hands-on, musculoskeletal, exercise kind of guy.
So how old were you when you got your first adjustment?
Oh, I was in chiropractic college. I like I said, I didn't even really know what it was. I went and I checked it out and I said, this is the direction to go. This is kind of what I mean by I always feel like I was just led to be a chiropractor. Like, had it not been for being a chiropractor, I don't know if I would have ever found God.
That's powerful. I think, the second part of my question about your chiropractic story is what makes you unique. I think that's like a very unique path. I think that makes you probably one of the most unique people I've ever interviewed because chiropractic helped you find spirituality.
Oh man, totally. And I mean, that's a long story. And like I said, maybe we should do another podcast about that sometime. But I think what's made me unique, at least in the eyes of other chiropractors, is definitely not my spirituality. The fact that chiropractic kind of brought me to God. It's more the fact that I was the first chiropractor in the entire world to utilize HIFEM technology, which is totally opposite of theology. I kind of, when I was a chiropractor, I got talked into utilizing aesthetic devices by my staff. They talked me into buying a Zerona laser, and it worked pretty darn good. I mean, we got excellent results. So Zerona laser, you can, on average, you lose about 4 inches of circumference around the waist per treatment. And we saw that, and we saw actually better results than that. But that was just fat loss. And it was kind of difficult for me as a chiropractor to justify, telling a patient who comes in for back pain that, hey, you should go sit on Zerona and lose some fat. Then one day I work in a integrated office, and there was a nurse practitioner there flipping through this book. And I saw this advertisement for EMSCULPT, and it says, can build muscle by 25%. And I'm like, stop, let me see this. Because you got to understand, like, my background's in sports medicine, and I was actually the first chiropractor ever integrated into the University of Denver sports medicine department. And I've seen it all. We've tried, all the Russian stim you could imagine in the world, and it serves its place. I'm not going to sit here and just dog on Russian stim, but you're not going to get hypertrophy or hyperplasia of a targeted muscle group using Russian stim. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. So when I saw in this magazine that there's a device that's FDA approved on average to increase the muscle size, both in terms of hypertrophy and hyperplasia, so it increases the actual number of myocytes in a cell, I'm like, I got to have this thing. I don't even care how much this thing costs. I got to have it. So I went out, I got an EMSCULPT, didn't even know what I was doing, had no background in aesthetics. I was not a med spa owner at that time, and started utilizing this thing because every day I've got, 50 patients coming in who generally have musculoskeletal complaints. And they're asking me, okay, what can I do to stabilize my core to reduce the frequency of these flare-ups? And I'm like, well, I just happen to have this device. Why don't you go sit on it for 4 visits? And the FDA says on average, you're going to build those targeted muscles by 25%. And that was literally my technique. And within a couple of years, I didn't even know, but I sent some of my staff up to an event up in Denver. BTL, the company who invented HIFEM, who invented the EMSCULPT, was there. And when my girls walked in there and introduced themselves, they're like, yeah, we're from the Center for Alternative Medicine. The BTL staff stopped and said, you're from where? Or you're in Pueblo? That's our #1 clinic. And I stopped. They came back and told me this. I'm like, wait, what? So I called up BTL. Turns out my little clinic in Pueblo, Colorado, which is one of the poorest cities in Colorado, has the busiest HIFEM EMSCULPT clinic in all of Colorado and one of the top 10 in the country. And I don't even do anything. I'm just treating it as I imagine any chiropractor would treat it. So it just blew my mind. So we're competing against the aesthetics industry in HIFEM. That's what they originally invented it for, is for vanity purposes. It was initially invented to give people cut abs, a bigger butt, right? Or more toned guns or calves. And it will do that. It's got an aesthetic side to it. But I was using it purely for functional gain. And I'm blowing plastic surgeons out of the water in Pueblo. Pueblo, the average household income in Pueblo is about 44, 45,000. This is a combined average household income per year in Pueblo. In Denver, it's double that. Depending on where you're talking about in Denver, it's about $79,000, $80,000 average per household income. So we're about half of what Denver's doing. And we're doing double what they're doing in terms of treatments using HIFEM technology.
So I'm curious, why do you think it works so well?
Well, HIFEM, okay, so you got to talk a bit about the technology. HIFEM stands for high intensity focused electromagnetic energy. So this is not shocking someone with a Russian stim. You're not playing them like a marionette to get muscle contractions. This is kind of like a MRI machine in that it produces a magnetic field. And that magnetic field is going to recruit the electrons in the muscle of the body and force them to contract. And you can't help but to feel like you're the one doing it. And these are supramaximal contractions. These are not contractions that you could do just using your brain to tell your muscle to contract. They're supramaximal. They're stronger than you could ever accomplish physiologically. And you're going to do about 20,000 of these in a 30-minute session. So if you do it on the glutes, it's going to simulate about 20,000 lunges or squats. If you do it on the abs, it's going to simulate about 20,000 crunches. And you're supposed to do four 30-minute treatments. And on average, you'll see a 25% increase in hypertrophy and hyperplasia of the targeted area. And it works great.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession on the world's #1 chiropractic podcast. This episode is sponsored by Imaging Services, Chiro Health USA, Chiro Moguls, Pure Chiro Notes, Titronics, Sherman College of Chiropractic, New Patients in a Box, the Influencer Authority Podcast Training, Mango Voice, Community Healthcare Resources, Life Chiropractic College West, TrackStat, and EMSCULPT. Let's hustle. So let's talk about like recovery from injuries. How effective is this type of process for like a low back injury?
So we use it for a lot of PI, personal injury, car accident types of patients, and it is a you have a reimbursable code, and I don't know if I can say how much we charge for it, but we've never had a reduced payment. The insurance companies seem to have no problem paying for this because it's FDA backed. It actually works. And so you have a patient, let's say injured in a car accident, who doesn't want to go to physical therapy because it just hurts. Going through the range of motion causes pain, inflammation. So they can just lay there. You can put these pads on there, see the hypertrophy, see the improvement, and you can also observe a clearly accelerated rate of recovery. And it's really interesting because after that patient graduates, I'll say from the PI injury, they get better and they're dismissed from care. They come back. They want more because they felt better on the treatments, those EMSCULPT treatments, and they know it.
So talk about like thoracic mid back pain, and somebody's like really like dealing with like sore ribs. We're talking about like, you're talking about like recovering from like, core stuff. You're talking about like making a bigger glutes. You're talking about making, bigger biceps. But what about somebody that's like dealing with like cranky, achy, injury to like the mid thoracics and ribs?
Well, you picked the one area that I would say the EMSCULPT is least effective, because you really shouldn't use this technology anywhere near the heart.
Okay.
And the one big no is they can't have a pacemaker. Anybody with a pacemaker should never be on this device. So my short answer would be go get adjusted. If you're waking up with rib pain, you need to drink more water and you need to get adjusted. Now for anything else, let's say somebody's got low back, let's say someone's got hip, let's say someone's got pubic symphysis issues, let's say someone's got knee issues. Oh my gosh, the EMSCULPT works so good for knee issues and pelvic instability. I had an 83-year-old lady who had terrible knee pain. This was just a couple months ago. She had her VMO, the medial quad, was so atrophied, you could darn near tap the bone. Like there was no muscle there. We did a series of treatments at 83 years old, and that thing hypertrophied so nicely, it got bigger than the other leg. She gained about an inch to an inch and a half of circumference, as measured about 5 inches above the patella. It was kind of incredible. And so we're talking about someone who can't go to physical therapy. She went and got an MRI, and the orthopedic surgeon said, hey, there's nothing I can do for you here. She didn't really have any osteoarthritis. She actually had some rheumatoid arthritis. And doing the physical therapy wasn't really gaining the muscle back. I mean, the exercises to build VMO is like notoriously bad. It's too hard to isolate a VMO. But with an EMSCULPT, you just slap a pad on there, hit go. And then a few visits later, she gets that muscle back. It was kind of incredible. I was blown away by how effective this was on an 83-year-old woman.
So marketing, let's talk marketing. How do you market the EMSCULPT, and how are you effectively getting people to come into your clinic to use it?
When I first started, I exclusively sold it, I will say, to my patient base. So if someone comes in and they say, hey, what can I do to strengthen my core? Or, hey, what can I do so I don't keep throwing my back out all the time? I would tell them, hey, go try this EMSCULPT device. And just doing that, I became the #1 practice in all of Colorado and a top 10 in the country. And I don't even have that busy of a chiropractic practice. I probably do, I don't know, maybe 50 treatments a day, something like that. Nothing too crazy. And a lot of those are dry needling patients too. So, and like I said, I don't have that busy of a practice, and I'm in a really poor neighborhood, and we were just killing it with this thing. So then I got wise, and I thought, hey, let me do a little bit of online advertising. So we started doing some some funnels. I found I like to work with local businesses. So I found a local marketing company with a hipster named Adam with a handlebar curly mustache, and I talked him into running some funnels for me, and all of a sudden it just exploded. Let me just put it this way. I have, since adding EMSCULPT, my practice has more than doubled. So it took me, I did the math last night. It took me 9 years to build my practice by 50%. I'm not a very good business person. I'll be perfectly honest with you. 9 years to grow my chiropractic practice 50%. And then in the 3 years that I've had an EMSCULPT, we've more than doubled our gross income. In fact, I went from just owning one chiropractic practice to now I have 2 chiropractic practices and 2 fully blown integrated med spas. So, and it was all because of EMSCULPT. I started with an EMSCULPT and also EMSCELA. I should probably mention that. EMSCELA is the exact same technology as EMSCULPT, but it targets the pelvic floor muscles. It's kind of funny. BTL, they I assume created the EMSCULPT for aesthetic purposes, for vanity purposes, but the EMSCELA is fully functional. They used it for fully functional reasons. It's developed to help postpartum women with urinary incontinence. It's like 95% effective. 1/3 of women suffer from urinary incontinence, and the biggest treatment that they can do is they can put a bladder stimulator into, surgically install this thing just above the pelvis, and it's permanent, and it's bad. We're talking 1/3 of women suffer from this. So how many of that 1/3 of women are going to go and get this bladder cord stimulator when they could just sit on an EMSCELA, do 6 treatments, and it's 95% effective? It also improves sexual function. It also helps with pelvic floor stability and therefore the health of the spine. Like the local hospital in Pueblo refused to buy an EMSCELA. I treat the head OBGYN, and I talked to him about it. I'm like, why didn't you guys buy this thing? And he hemmed and he hawed, well, we don't really know how to bill it and blah, blah, blah. The truth is they make so much money off of these surgeries. Why would they ever buy an EMSCELA? Like, it is, I look at it as my duty to own an EMSCELA in a city where the hospital refuses to buy one of these things. You're going to save so many young women from having to go get a bladder stimulator. So you're going to save so many people from these needless surgeries, and they love you for it. It's not about the money at that point. Like $2,000 for a package of EMSCELA is nothing when you're helping someone prevent a surgery. And the best part is, I don't have to do anything. They just come in, they sit on a chair, they don't have to get changed, and do 6 treatments, 95% success. It's passive income from my perspective. It's a service to my community from a community perspective, and the patients love it and they come back. So I have this one nurse practitioner who just comes back every month, and she keeps doing this thing, and I'm like, why do you love the EMSCELA so much? And she says, well, now I can cough and jump on a trampoline without leaking myself. But she has this smile. I'm like, why are you smiling? And she goes, because it makes sex feel better. And that just blew my mind, because that's like a side effect, right? But so is improving your pelvic stability. If you can improve the size and the strength of the pelvic floor muscles, you're going to see more than just the benefits that the FDA approved. You're going to see all the benefits that a guy like me, a chiropractor like me, who wants to try to rehab groups of muscles, rehab the whole person. You're going to see effects far beyond what's on the label.
Well, I think, Dr. Ted, I've noticed personally, because I've done a handful of sessions on this, and I've seen in people, because I worked in a chiropractic biophysics office for 6 years. I saw so many times that people had like instability in their hips. They had instability in the connective tissue with the bones beneath L4 and L5, which is the pelvic area, which are the fused bones, the coccyx, the sacrum, and the bones that are like within the hips that hold the femur heads. And I found that a lot of the times there's not a real, there's nothing that is, in my opinion, that's something that can rehab that area. Like it just doesn't exist.
It's notoriously difficult. You're spot on. It doesn't exist. And also there's really no way to say increase the bone density in those areas aside from resistance exercises, and that's incredibly difficult if you're, let's say, a 72-year-old female with osteopenia. You know what I mean? You put one of these individuals on EMSCULPT and they will actually increase not just in muscle but in bone density. This is one of those off menu side effects of doing the procedure. So what you're talking about is it's difficult to rehab below L4, L5. You're right, but this is a game changer. You can not only strengthen the muscles, but you can also strengthen the bones, literally, using this device.
I think it's pretty revolutionary what you're doing. I kind of want to talk a little bit more about you, the practitioner, what you're doing to keep yourself healthy, because I think that comes into play within this chiropractic world a lot. Is how are you taking care of you and your family?
Great question. I adjust my family daily, and I get adjusted as frequently as possible. I work with another chiropractor, so it's not that difficult for me to get adjusted. But one of the things that I've really taken a liking to since getting into this whole med spa arena is IV hydration. You know, that's something that I hear so much. I talk to so many chiropractors, and my mind is just blown by how many chiropractors are kind of getting their foot into this whole like med spa arena. It's blowing my mind, and it makes perfect sense. We're kind of like the best suited providers to run successful med spas. Now, like, the legalities on doing IV hydration depend entirely state to state as a chiropractor, but oh my gosh, it is such a game changer. For me, I'm a chronically dehydrated person. I don't drink enough water, and that's something I've been working on. I just don't like to drink it. I don't know why. I'd rather drink black water, coffee. But I've been forcing myself to do more IV hydration, and I cannot believe the difference that it makes. Like you were saying, rib pain. That's something that I actually do suffer from. I have Sherman's disease. I have a hyperkyphosis. And so I've always had chronic rib issues, especially when I'm sleeping or when I first get out of bed. But since starting to use IV hydration more frequently, that's virtually gone away.
Yeah. I always tell people on our show that the world is more chronically sick than they've ever been. And a chiropractic adjustment is amazing. But people are coming in with off the charts toxins in their body. They're coming in with physical, chemical, and emotional trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that are coming in for a chiropractic case are much different than they used to be. And people are much more sedentary. Their diet is much more deficient in minerals and nutrition. From a baseline standard. I mean, 40% of our population is obese in America. So there's a lot of health concerns that come into it. And I think that it's important for people to have a trusted resource and people that can actually help them. And I think that most chiropractors got into the chiropractic profession because they wanted to help more people. And everybody does a little bit different. And that's the thing that I love about our show is we feature people that they can be as straight as they want to be, and all they do is touch the first bone in somebody's neck, or they could be somebody that's an integrated office that actually looks at labs, or they could be somebody that sees how they can make improvements with people that have been injured, and how the EMSCULPT could be something that could help that type of patient. And I think that we're dealing with a different breed of people, and a chiropractic case has evolved. And the people that are administering care to people have evolved too. I just always want the people that watch our show to know that we have to stay true to the roots of chiropractic, which are science, philosophy, and art of the profession. But the people that we're evolving with are not the same people that the profession was founded for. So I hope that the profession never devolves from the philosophical standpoint, or never devolves from the part of adjusting the spine. But I hope that as the profession goes forward, that they understand that we have a sicker group of people, and the people are less healthy than they've ever been, and we have to treat the body differently.
Amen, brother. You said that so perfectly. Golf clap.
and that's really what this is all about. It's about featuring chiropractors and finding their soul genius and finding out why they do what they do. And I think that this episode was very important for people to take into consideration, because rehabbing people as a general method is the Hippocratic Oath, is the real truth of any medical practitioner, is to do no harm. But also we want to get people back to their, in the medical necessity world, is activities of daily living and least invasive first. And I really believe that what you're doing is getting people back to activities of daily living with least invasive first. And you're including that in with the chiropractic lifestyle, which I think that people need to understand, that when people take care of the whole person, now we get the faster paced miracle for people that are sicker in our culture.
I think you said a mouthful just there. I mean, I could say a lot more in response, but I see that we've hit 30 minutes.
Yeah. So if people wanted to work with you, or they wanted to learn more about the EMSCULPT or EMSCELA, how can we get people to reach out to you?
So I'd recommend people just email me. Yeah, my personal email. It's fine. You can blow it up. It's middle and last name @gmail.com. It's Wilding Davis. My middle name is WILDING. Last name DAVIS @gmail.com. WildingDavis@gmail.com.
Well, at this point in the interview, I always like to give you the last option. Is there anything I didn't ask you? Because I know I sent you 7 questions to answer and we didn't get to all of them, but is there anything I didn't ask you that you'd like to share with our audience today?
You know, I don't think so. I would just like to part with one thought, and that is just that there's this, like you said, there's just so many different ways of touching the chiropractic audience, so to speak. And I'm starting to notice more and more people are getting interested in doing more and more med spa type procedures, like, for example, IV hydration. And what I would say is that if people are curious, even just maybe they don't want an EMSCULPT, but they're curious about how they might be able to integrate med spa procedures into their practice, they should also reach out to me. I have more experience using HIFEM technology than any chiropractor and possibly functional medicine practitioner on planet Earth. So if you have questions, please reach out and ask me these questions.
Well, Ted, I really appreciate your time tonight. Look forward to having you on a future episode, and I'll be in touch with you. Okay.
You bet, Jim. Thanks for having me.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.